Hello, welcome to Food Immerse, a channel where we not only teach you how to cook delicious dishes, but immerse ourselves in the history, culture, science, and beauty of food. I'm Lorraine, and I'm so excited for you to join me on this journey, exploring different cuisines, ingredients, and cooking techniques. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single delicious episode. Stuffed butternut squash is a vegan dish, substantial and special enough to serve as a main course adjacent to the turkey on the Thanksgiving table. A flavorful combination of roasted squash, wild rice, dried cranberries, chopped nuts, sautéed vegetables, and sage are stuffed into the squash halves for a festive presentation. You can experiment with endless variations on the filling, replacing wild rice with brown rice or quinoa, dried cranberries with raisins or dried apricots, or adding chickpeas, diced apple, or different types of nuts or herbs. This will also work with any type of winter squash. Try acorn squash, keeping them whole with the tops cut off for cute individual servings. Wild rice is not actually a rice at all, it is a grass. More specifically, the long, slender grain of a reed-like aquatic plant that is native to North America. Early European explorers observed Native Americans harvesting the grains of this water plant and assumed it was wild rice, and the name stuck. The U.S. state of Minnesota is the world's largest producer of wild rice. Wild rice is often sold as a blend with brown rice and different colors of wild rice. You do not need pure wild rice for this recipe. Any wild blend will work and provide the nutty, variegated color binder for this stuffing. It is important to follow package directions for liquid ratio and cooking time since each blend is different. Okay, let's get cooking. To make stuffed butternut squash, you will need 1 butternut squash, 3 tablespoons olive oil, 1.5 cups uncooked wild rice, enough vegetable broth to replace water per rice package directions, which will be approximately 3¼ cups, 1 onion, 2 carrots, 2 celery ribs, 3 garlic cloves, 1 bunch of fresh sage, ½ a teaspoon dried thyme, 1 teaspoon salt and ½ teaspoon freshly ground black pepper, ½ cup chopped and toasted walnuts or pecans, and ½ cup of dried cranberries. Start by adjusting oven rack to middle position and preheating the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Great care should be used when cutting the very tough squash lengthwise. Use the heel of your chef's knife and start with the thickest part of the squash toward you. Use a rocking motion to push the knife through the thick part of the squash. Notice that my non-cutting hand is over the top of the knife for safety. You will not be able to cut the squash in one clean cut. Turn the squash and cut through up until you hit the stem. Now turn the squash over, line the knife up with the previous cut, and again use a rocking motion to cut through the squash up to the stem. The stem is too tough to cut through. Holding the stem toward you, break the 2 pieces apart. The stem will end up on 1/2, which is fine. Next, use a large, somewhat sharp-edged spoon to scrape out the seeds and pulp. Place the squash halves on a foil-lined sheet pan and rub the cut sides with some olive oil. Turn cut sides down and place into the preheated oven for 45 minutes. We need to start the wild rice since it can take 35 to 55 minutes to cook. Use a strainer to rinse the rice and place into saucepan. Add vegetable broth to replace water on package directions. Add 1 teaspoon salt. I didn't catch this on the video. Bring to a boil, then turn to low, cover, and set timer per package directions. While the rice and squash are cooking, let's prepare our stuffing ingredients. peel both carrots. Cut the ends off and then cut in half crossways where the carrot starts tapering. Cut the wider piece in half lengthwise, and because this is a thicker carrot, I'm going to cut these halves into thirds. Now turn the stack and cut across into medium dice. Repeat with the other piece. Cut the ends off the celery, cut lengthwise, then turn and cut across into medium dice. Add to the carrots. Cut the top off the onion, then cut it in half down through the root, putting your non-cutting hand on top to steady the onion and avoid cutting yourself. I cut from top down to avoid pushing dirt from the root into the onion. Peel each half. Make 3 to 4 horizontal cuts. Then make vertical cuts about a ½ inch apart for medium dice. Turn the onion and make ½ inch cuts across. Add to carrots and celery. Cut the stem and root ends from the garlic cloves. By keeping the knife on the board and pulling the clove up, the skin will often come off. For any stuck skin, just give the clove a wrap with the flat side of the blade. Now finely mince the garlic by running your knife through it. Place it in its own bowl. Pull several leaves of sage and stack on the board. Make fine slices across, then turn your knife and cut into a fine mince. Sage is very strong and you want it evenly dispersed throughout the stuffing. Add 1½ teaspoons sage to the dried thyme. After 45 minutes, remove squash from oven. Use a wooden skewer to poke through skin, and if it slides through easily, the squash is done. The diced onion, carrot, and celery mixture is known by the French term mirepoix, and the proportions are roughly 1/2 onion, 1/4 carrot, and 1/4 celery. Gather the mixture with the minced garlic, sage, thyme, and salt and pepper for our next step. In a large non-stick skillet, heat 1 tablespoon olive oil over medium heat. Add the mirepoix and stir until softened but not mushy, approximately 6 to 7 minutes. Test a large carrot piece for doneness, then clear a space in the pan. Add garlic and sauté for 20 to 30 seconds until fragrant. Combine into mixture, then add sage and thyme and salt and pepper. Stir together and then turn off the burner. When squash is cool enough to handle, use a large spoon to scoop out the squash pulp, leaving a ½ inch pulp border along the sides and bottom. Be careful not to tear through the shell. Dice up the pulp. You don't need to be precise here. Any mashed up bits should be included with the dice. Assemble the cooked rice, squash pulp, chopped roasted nuts, I used pecans, and dried cranberries for our next step. Place the skillet with the sautéed veggies over medium-low heat. Add the squash pulp. Add the dried cranberries and the chopped nuts and stir to combine. Next, add the cooked wild rice. It's a tight fit for everything in this 10-inch skillet, so I'm stirring in the rice a little bit at a time rather than dumping it all in at once. Once ingredients are well combined, remove from the heat. Place squash halves face up on a serving platter. Use a large spoon to scoop stuffing into squash shells. Next, use a smaller spoon to gently press stuffing into shells. Finally, mound additional stuffing on top. Place any extra stuffing in a bowl and serve separately at the table. Very carefully cut each squash piece in half crosswise. I prefer to do this on the serving platter so I don't lose filling transferring it from the cutting board. Garnish with a branch of sage or sprinkle minced sage over the top. Serve with a wide spatula for lifting each squash piece onto the plate. Thank you so much for joining Food Immerse and exploring different cuisines, ingredients, and cooking techniques. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe so you don't miss a single delicious episode. If you make this dish, I would love to hear about it in the comments or shoot me an email. Until next time, cheers to good food.